Long before the Reddit army tried to take down Wall Street with GameStop, there was another massive short squeeze that almost broke the stock market. In 1923, a single man from Tennessee decided to wage an all-out financial war against the most powerful bankers in New York. His name was Clarence Saunders, and he wasn't a hedge fund manager or an investment banker. He was a grocer. But Clarence wasn't just any grocer. He was a visionary who had just revolutionized the entire way humanity buys food. When Wall Street tried to bankrupt his company for a quick profit, Clarence didn't hire lawyers or beg for mercy. Instead, he laid a multi-million-dollar trap to corner the market and squeeze the life out of the Wall Street elite. It was the ultimate underdog story of Main Street taking on Wall Street. Welcome to the Loophole Ledger. To understand how a grocery man managed to bring the New York Stock Exchange to its knees, we have to go back to 1916. Before 1916, grocery shopping was a slow, expensive, and frustrating process. You couldn't just walk in and grab what you wanted. Customers had to hand a written list to a clerk, who would then walk around the store, pick the items one by one, and bag them up. It required massive amounts of staff, making groceries incredibly expensive. Clarence Saunders looked at this system and thought it was completely ridiculous. He had a crazy idea. What if you just let the customers walk through the aisles and grab the food themselves? In September 1916, he opened the very first Piggly Wiggly in Memphis, Tennessee. It was the world's first true self-service grocery store. He gave customers wooden baskets, set up open shelves, and forced them to walk through a maze-like path so they had to see every single product. The concept was an absolute goldmine. By cutting labor costs, Clarence could sell food cheaper than anyone else in town. Piggly Wiggly became a national sensation overnight. Within a few years, Clarence was franchising the name, and thousands of stores were opening across America. Clarence went from a poor high school dropout to a multimillionaire, building a massive pink marble mansion in Memphis. In 1922, looking to expand his empire even further, Clarence took Piggly Wiggly public on the New York Stock Exchange. But taking a company public means opening your doors to the sharks. And Wall Street was filled with apex predators. In the early 1920s, a minor recession hit the United States. A few Piggly Wiggly franchises in New York went bankrupt. It was a small bump in the road for a massive national company, but a group of aggressive Wall Street speculators known as bear raiders smelled blood. These bears didn't want Piggly Wiggly to succeed. They wanted to make a fortune by betting that the company's stock was going to crash. They started aggressively shorting the stock. This means they borrowed shares they didn't own, sold them at the current high price, and hoped to buy them back later when the price tanked. If the price drops, they pocket the difference. It's a highly profitable strategy, but only if you can force the company's value into the ground. The Wall Street bears began spreading vicious rumors in the press, claiming Piggly Wiggly was completely insolvent and on the verge of collapse. Panic set in among regular investors. They started selling their shares out of fear, causing the stock price to plummet from $50 down to $39. The bears were winning. They were making millions while destroying the reputation of Clarence Saunders' life's work. But Wall Street fundamentally underestimated Clarence. They thought he was just a dumb southern country boy who wouldn't know how to fight back. When Clarence realized what was happening, he was furious. He publicly announced that he would beat the Wall Street professionals at their own game. Clarence knew exactly how short selling worked. He knew the bears had sold shares they didn't actually own, and eventually, they had to buy them back to close their positions. So, Clarence came up with a brilliant, ruthless plan, a short squeeze. He was going to buy up every single share of his own company. If he owned all the shares, the bears wouldn't be able to buy them back. They would be trapped, and Clarence could charge them whatever price he wanted. But to pull this off, he needed an absolute mountain of cash. Clarence went to bankers all across the South and borrowed $10 million. Armed with his war chest, Clarence hired a team of brokers to secretly start buying up Piggly Wiggly stock on the open market. Week by week, the bears kept shorting the stock, thinking they were driving the price down. but Clarence was quietly buying everything they were selling. By March of 1923, Clarence had executed his trap perfectly. Out of the 200,000 total shares of Piggly Wiggly, Clarence now secretly owned 198,000 of them. He had successfully cornered the entire market. It was time to spring the trap. Clarence suddenly called in the shares. He demanded physical delivery of the stock the short sellers had borrowed. Panic erupted on Wall Street. The bears suddenly realized there were no shares left to buy. Clarence owned them all. Desperate to find shares to cover their massive debts, the bears started bidding against each other. The stock price skyrocketed. In just a few days, Piggly Wiggly stock shot up from $39 to an astonishing $124 a share. The Wall Street elite were bleeding cash by the minute. They were facing millions in losses, and many were staring down the barrel of total bankruptcy. Clarence had them by the throat. He gave them an ultimatum: pay me $150 a share by tomorrow, or face financial ruin. The national press went wild. Headlines across the country celebrated the grocery man who had finally beaten the untamable beasts of New York. But Wall Street is an exclusive club, and they don't like losing their money to outsiders. Facing the complete destruction of several major brokerage firms, the governing board of the New York Stock Exchange held a secret, emergency meeting. The board members, many of whom were friends with the trap bears, decided they weren't going to let Clarence win. In a completely unprecedented and highly corrupt move, the exchange simply changed the rules of the game right in the middle of the play. They officially suspended all trading of Piggly Wiggly stock. The ticker stopped moving. Even worse, the board granted the short sellers a massive extension. They gave them extra days to find shares off the market, completely breaking the squeeze. It was a blatant bailout for the rich. By giving the bears a backdoor exit, they destroyed Clarence's leverage. Without the forced buying pressure, the price of Piggly Wiggly stock collapsed instantly. Clarence was left holding tens of millions of dollars in debt from the loans he took out to buy the stock, and now the stock was worthless. The Wall Street bears survived, but Clarence was destroyed. He was forced to declare personal bankruptcy. He lost control of the company he founded. Piggly Wiggly was handed over to the very bankers he had tried to defeat. He even had to surrender his beautiful pink marble mansion, which he hadn't even finished building yet, to pay off his debts. Clarence Saunders tried to bounce back with new grocery concepts over the years, but he never regained the massive empire he lost in 1923. The Piggly Wiggly short squeeze remains one of the most brutal reminders in financial history. The system is rigged to protect the house. If you enjoyed this dive into the loophole ledger, hit subscribe and let me know down in the comments what corporate mystery we should uncover next.